This is the Data Privacy Detective. And today we're going to talk about privacy and AI and sales. What are the underlying issues here? And what's going on in the world of sales in our digital age? And we couldn't have a better guest today than Thomas Ryan. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Joseph, thank you so much for having me.
Well, Tom, you're the CEO and the founder of Bigly Sales, B-I-G-L-Y, Bigly Sales. And some people call you a visionary leader who is trying to transform the sales industry through advanced AI-driven solutions. Bigly Sales, which you lead, is right at the forefront of the tech industry. And I know you offer innovative AI tools that help a customer to generate leads, customize landing pages, and really to turn leads or contacts into sales. So let me start with you with this, Tom. Talk to us a little bit about today's sales industry in the digital age.
Sales are changing now more than they have any time in my lifetime. So how things worked 5 or 10 years ago compared to how they're working today and how they're going to work 5 years from now, it's changing so fast. It's really unbelievable.
Well, how so? What are the big changes?
So, number one, the new TCPA rules are coming out. And some of these rules have been in place for a little while, but they just haven't been that enforced.
Now, some people don't know what you're talking about. So TCPA, what's that?
Sure, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act.
Right.
Right now, if you put your name into a form, what ends up happening is someone calls you, and then that data can be sold and resold pretty much an unlimited amount of times. So you fill out a form on the internet and you think it's for XYZ Corporation, but you might have that data go to 100 other companies, and they might all call you 5 or 10 times. So be careful whenever you put your information out there on the internet. That's number one. That's one of the reasons why there's no privacy, that, everyone is buying this data. They, there's a bunch of companies out there that buy this data, create these giant databases, and they have pretty much everyone in America. And when I say they have you, they know everything about you. So if you have a cell phone, they probably know who you are, what websites you're on, what you're doing, where you live, what your interests are. I mean, it's all known.
And despite the phone companies having what they call spam filters and so on, or, this spam risk is my most frequent caller now. I haven't met her. I assume spam is a woman. But despite that, boy, they are annoying, aren't they?
Yeah, and what they're doing is they're trying to clean this up. So it's almost like the trial lawyers and the folks at Google and Facebook got together and had a sit down, and at that sit down they decided to increase their sales a whole bunch. That they're getting rid of what I just told you about. They're going to make everything 1-to-1. So this is supposed to go into effect in February of next year. And I'm not a lawyer by trade. Talk to your lawyer if you have any questions on this stuff, but they're basically going to outlaw cold calling of consumers. Now, business to business, you can do whatever the hell you want. Consumers, you're only going to be able to call them if you have consent, if someone's on the do not call list, which pretty much everyone is at this point.
Yeah, the FTC's list. I've been on it a long time. People call me anyway, but I'm not.
Yeah, I've been on it since 2004 or 2005, right? But it's that same list. I checked. My phone number's still on there. You still get these calls anyway. You can call anyone once. The second time you call them, you're in violation of the TCPA. Yeah. If they hire a lawyer, they can go and sue you as a business. And starting in February of next year, there's no ambiguity to this. If they have, if you haven't filled out a form for them, they can't call you. And two calls, they are legally liable. And
calls and you're out. That's right. Well, how's that changing sales? And let me guess a little bit. I would guess the customers you get probably have what they would consider proper leads and then they want your help. And what does AI have to do with how your company helps them? Talk a
That's
little about.
exactly right. That's exactly right. So they want proper sales. What's a proper sale? It's something that came from a legitimate web form, either from your SEO or from Google, that someone has picked up the phone and called you. Someone has filled out one of your forms on your website. Someone has answered an ad from Facebook or Google or TikTok or one of these other big, lead companies.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's basically what they're expecting. And you can get fines from the lawyers. You can also get fines from the phone companies. If you're sending improper text, they'll charge you $500 per occurrence for improper text. And again, most of this stuff is really going to go into effect in 2025. So they're changing the game of what was allowable. The old cold calling regimes are basically dead. Because of this. And any of the big companies that are out there, if you try to give them a lead, they're going to ask you, how did you source this lead? Was it done in the proper way? And if it isn't, they won't even buy it from you. So they're really changing how this works. Where we sit is once that lead has been created, we're replacing call centers with AI. So that lead is created, someone fills out a form on your company website, that lead comes in, and within a couple of seconds of that lead being created, our AI will text them and call them to start trying to convert that person. And what we can do is we can do qualification on the front end. We can do intake questions. Any questions that you might have. Are you over 65? Do you make over $50,000 a year? Do you own the property that you're calling about? Whatever those questions may be, we can ask them, and then it can either schedule them or send a Stripe invoice to be paid, or whatever that next step is once it has done that qualification intake.
Right. And when you went through your AI tool, it starts a conversation, I'll call it, between the person who said, "Yeah, I'm interested in a car," or whatever it may be. How much could you really know about that person already from data that's out there that you could purchase if you want to?
So I've been saying this for a long time. Privacy is dead. It is beyond dead. All of the data that you could possibly want to know about someone, literally hundreds of data points are available for sale. So for any person that I get, either that calls in from a phone number or even that lands on a website, I can tell you their age, I can tell you their religion, I can tell you their political affiliation, how many kids they have, what car they drive, the house they live in, their approximate net worth, the value of the home. If you can think of a data point that's out there, it can be purchased and is available for your business. So as soon as someone calls in, within a couple of seconds, we can get that information with an API.
Right. Very, very interesting. And of course, there are laws out there. There are a lot of different ones for Europe, GDPR, much more privacy centric than what we see in the United States. But a lot about us is out there and isn't going to be retrieved, is what I'm hearing from you. And it's more a matter of how can then a lead turn into I'll call it a sale, a transaction, in a respectful way for customers.
Everyone's data is available, but you can't call someone anymore. So that's the interesting dichotomy. If you go back 20 years, you couldn't get any of the data, but you could call whoever you want. Now you can't call anyone, but you can get everything there is to know on earth about them.
Things have changed. Yeah.
And it's changing how people do business. It's changing what they do. So you need to drive people inbound rather than do cold outreach. And people are so used to cold outreach. They've been doing cold outreach forever. It's very hard to change. But that is the way the world is going, that you need to create some interesting content. You need to put it out there on the internet, and you need to start driving people to you, which, is forcing people to pick up a whole skill set that they don't know. There's also a whole new industry that has been created because of this. So there's a performance marketing industry that's out there where you can buy leads. Again, you want to make sure they're being sourced in an ethical way, in a legal way, because if not, you're still on the hook for it. Right? If it's not sourced correctly and you're buying these leads legally, you're still gonna have a problem if someone goes and sues.
Yeah.
But there's this whole industry of performance marketing that's out there now where they are actually saying, we'll be that middleman for you. We will handle Google, and typically they do this for industry. We'll do Facebook or Google or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it takes to get the leads for your industry.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just pay us $50 a lead, $100 a lead, and we'll send them over as they come in every day.
Very, very interesting. Well, what are your top tips for businesses that want to be privacy conscious and certainly stay out of lawsuits and be good compliant companies about their sales efforts? What are your top tips?
So, one, make sure you're doing this in a compliant way. I mean, that's the easiest one. Make sure that your business process that you have in place is legally compliant, so you don't end up with, millions in legal fees down the road here at some point. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, start using AI. If you aren't using it already, AI can save pretty much every established business on earth a flood of money, make it more efficient, eliminate manual processes. Anything where people are taking stuff from one computer and put it on another, AI can probably do it at a small fraction of the cost.
Now, on that point, Tom, let me ask you, call centers 20 years ago, everybody, you had to have a call center. Great companies, are they sort of waning?
No, there's huge call centers. There's huge call
centers. All right. Yeah. But how does AI cost about the same as a call center?
No. We're going to save people, if they have a US-based call center, 80 or 90%. If we're competing against the Philippines or India or Pakistan or one of those places, it's probably only going to be about 50%. But we'll have a higher conversion rate. Yeah, we'll have a higher conversion rate and be significantly cheaper than offshore. Right. And right now, maybe if you're paying attention, you could tell it's not human, but it talks with natural language. The ways you could tell is it's probably not going to use a lot of slang. It's not going to joke around with you a lot. It's going to do some things that it's going to be, very focused on the information.
Right.
Let's put it that way. But it's going to have perfect information. So we feed the information and it's going to spit out what you put into it. So we give it all the frequently asked questions. We give it the company information. And then any question that you ask, it's going to be able to answer and do it correctly. So any of these legal things that exist, it's great for. Certain words that can't be used, certain things that can't be said, like, guarantee, right? So if we're texting folks, if we're talking about financial services, you might not be able to say guarantee, or insurance, you might not be able to say guarantee.
Right.
Well, guess what? We can have the AI automatically flag that word and make sure it's never used. So there's a lot of big advantages to it. And then everything can be viewed. There's a transcript on everything. Voice recordings on everything. You can literally go back and listen to every conversation. Excellent. You can see every word that has been done, and where we're going over the next couple of years from a privacy standpoint is probably interesting. But because we're signing up clients across industries, across different places, we're basically going to run a massive data project on this to be able to see what voices and what personalities work better with different folks. So when you call in, we're probably going to know who you are already, at least from, maybe I'm not going to know your hopes and dreams, Joseph, but we're going to know enough about you that we'll know if you like an older voice, a younger voice, someone with a Southern accent, right. someone who sounds Hispanic, right. We'll know enough about you that we can probably pick that up. And once we've seen people multiple times, I see this being hyper effective, that not only is it going to be as good as a human call center, but many times better at the actual communication.
Right.
Hyper persuasive.
And let's turn at the end here of our conversation. What are your top tips to people, to individuals who really don't want to be called unless they really do want to be called, and they don't want to be sold by companies they've never heard. I've been getting emails from companies offering to replace my roof. Well, I live in a condo. I mean, why are they writing me? So what are your top tips to individuals?
So number one, top tip number one, learn AI. Right, that's number one. Just go ahead and learn AI. If you haven't done it yet, start playing around with it. It's the most useful thing ever invented. It's getting better by leaps and bounds every day. Just go and start playing with some of the big tools for it, especially if you need help like doing something on your computer. Go and ask ChatGPT how to do it. Go ask Claude how to do it. That's tip number one. If you haven't registered for the Do Not Call list, go and register for that Do Not Call list. And should I give you a sneaky one, Joseph?
Anything you like to offer.
Okay. So for all the lead gen companies, what they do is they're always worried about known litigants. They're worried about that a known litigant is trying to sue them, is trying to trick them into calling multiple times so they can file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So the trial lawyers are probably going to like this one. If you ever file a lawsuit against someone for calling multiple times, and they have to call you multiple times, right? And you can't have filled out a form for them in the last 3 months. Or if you have to have told them stop. And then after you say stop, they've called you multiple times or texted you multiple times or called and texted. If you can document that, you can sue them, you'll win. You'll win, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, whatever the number is. But more importantly, you'll be put on that known litigant list. And companies will try to avoid calling you like the plague.
Mm-hmm.
All of the ones that do this will try to avoid you like the plague. So if you really want to stop those calls, you file one lawsuit and, you won't get those spam likelies anymore.
Very good tips for people. Well, Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. Really an interesting excursion into a world most of us have no idea is changing as much as you've told us and acts the way it does. So thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And as always, I'll remind listeners, as I always do, protecting your personal privacy begins with you.